Hey man, how's it going?
Howdy doody, not too bad.
Not too bad. Good, good. Welcome back everyone to Bite My Shiny Metal Cast, episode 10 of season 3. And I won't get this wrong this time. Luck of the Fryrish. Luck of the
Fryrish.
Fryrish, yes. Actually I was gonna ask as well. So when we get to like Jurassic Bark and everything, as we've talked about in the future, Jurassic Bark with Seymour, right? The dog, it tends to get a little less sad because we kind of know what happens in the
Oh
future.
yes, if you're watching this from the beginning without knowing anything about
Yeah.
Futurama,
Mhm.
all this past stuff doesn't matter.
Well, that's what I was gonna say. So do you feel then like it's not because I still kind of tear up near the end, even though I know
Oh,
that
it's a
I
good story and stuff like
yeah,
that, and
well
it
I know
makes you
what
think that
happens.
like,
Yeah,
oh, my brother loved and missed me so much he named his kid after me, kind of thing. And that's pretty
right.
cool
It's a
because
very
they all
sweet
presumed
thing.
that
Yeah,
that Fry died, more or less, right? Like they didn't
exactly.
know he got stuck and went to the future, even though there's a thing where Seymour leads him to him, and then they're like, shut up, Seymour, kind of thing.
Right. Uh,
I got to go
It's
back.
also it's also as well because it's kind of a continuity thing. But you know what? We'll save that for a little bit later. We'll talk about it
Yeah.
after we go through
Yeah.
the review. Let us begin. We
Yes.
actually open in a completely different environment. We open in old New York in the 20th century, and this is the birth of Philip J. Fry, all right, our main character, the main character of Futurama, and we are there at the hospital that he's born at, and it's like a pre-med thing or whatever, and we get to meet Fry's parents, Yancey Fry Senior, or honestly, he says there's a lot of Yanceys in his life, but or in their family line, but we're gonna call him Yancey Senior just for the sake of simplicity.
I think he's Yancey the third because his
Because
his his grandfather. Oh no, it'd be the fourth, I think.
he okay, so he says because we're gonna get to this with Yancey Junior, like the brother,
Yeah.
but he says he and his I think he says his grandfather,
He
so
doesn't. I
maybe
don't
not
think he
his
says his
father.
father.
He
I think
doesn't
he
say
says his
father.
grandfather or great grandfather.
He says grandfather, but then he says all the way back to Minuteman Yancey Fry, which was all the way like in the Civil War, which is
So
like
1800s.
years ago. That is definitely not Junior. that's like that's like the
Junior,
seventh.
junior, 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 junior,
Yeah.
junior, 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 junior.
So
Yancey
whomever,
the 15th.
yeah, whomever Yancey the father. Hence why I say Yancey Senior for this episode. But we get to meet him, and he's a tough American, all American type of guy, right? Like he loves his country, hates communism, and loves tools and taking care of his family. Like he's an all around good American guy,
Yeah, as it should be.
and right as he should be. And here we have his mom, who is like very sweet, very kind, but she's absolutely an avid sports fan, and she's currently as she's going into labor, she's listening to a baseball game with the Mets.
It looks
So
like an old cell phone, but it's an old little
just a
radio.
radio. Yeah, one of
Yeah.
those radios from the 80s, right?
Yeah.
Or sorry, 70s actually, because I'm pretty sure this is before, because Fry grows up throughout the 80s as like a
He
teenager.
was like 24 or something like that in the year
Right.
2000, so he would have been born like late 70s, maybe mid
Yeah.
70s.
So I'm guessing it's like 78,
Yeah,
79, I'm
I
guessing. Yeah.
think technically he's like supposed to be like 60 or something like that in the future, like 40 or 50 years old. Like
When
it's just the
in the
timey
current
wimey
day,
stuff. Yeah,
in the current
current
day,
day,
he
the
would
new
be in
season
his
coming out. Yeah.
yeah, in the current day, he'd probably be in his late 40s, early 50s, based on because he even remarks in the very first episode of the Hulu season, right? He remarks that it's 3024.
How old am
Something,
I?
right? Right. So he's like, I've been in the
Yeah, the
future for
thing is,
24 years. Yeah.
they talk about it, but like stuff like The Simpsons and not Futurama, the Family Guy and Bob's Burgers and stuff like that. It's literally the same year over and over and over and over and over again. So anytime it's there, oh, it's my 10th birthday again, kind of thing, right? But Futurama acknowledged it, and that bothers me because Fry went to the future in 2000 to 3000, and then it's 3024. So he's was like in his 20s, now he's in his 40s, but he isn't, but he is.
Exactly. It's funny how much time has passed, yet the characters also seem very very similar to what they were during that time as well, right? But yeah, I know Futurama is one of the you and I think didn't we talk about this in like the very first episode or the second episode we ever did of the series? We mentioned how Futurama is one of those shows that actually has like an overlying story arc and actually continuity that like kind of breaks
Yeah.
and like connects everybody together, right?
And to prove that the one of the new seasons episodes was Children of the Lesser Bog, which went
Right, which was a
back
20
from
year in the
when,
future, right? Yeah,
So
and they actually remarked this, yeah.
yeah, exactly. So they were all in their 20s, like Amy, Leela, and Fry, and now they're in their 40s, but they still are in their 20s.
They still act like they're in their 20s, kind of, and they
I
also
don't know.
dress the same. I know there's no
They
lines,
could
really,
all,
it's just their voices are different now.
yeah, they all haven't. They could chalk it up to just the future. They went to the planet of aging / de-aging or
Sure,
whatever it is
yeah.
to really get it to be canon, but it's
Mm.
just confusing is all I'm saying, and they haven't acknowledged it, but they haven't.
Yes. They have technology that gives us the suspension of disbelief that we can
Oh,
probably figure out what they're doing in the future to give themselves like this, younger looking self or
yes.
whatever.
I
Despite
don't
the
have my little
professor
sticky
even being
note
old.
on my computer because I'm using my laptop here, so I don't
Sure.
have that sticky note in my face or suspension of
Yeah.
disbelief.
You have to remember it on your own now.
Yes. Yeah.
So in any case, oh, actually, you know what? I missed this. Do you know who Fry's what his mother's name is? Do we ever get his mom's name? Because Yancey we know for sure because he mentions it, but I can't remember his mom's name.
Sherry. Her name's Sherry.
Oh, Mitchell. I'm so dumb. So
Yeah.
obviously Yancey's father isn't
Enos.
Yancey. It's Enos, right?
Yeah.
So it's Enos Fry, but then his father would have been Yancey Fry, but we know that's not true. Anyway, yeah, here we have Fry's mom, Sherry, who we find out later in the series is Sherry Fry and Yancey Senior, and yeah, she gives birth to Philip J. Fry, and they decide to name him after the screwdriver. Due to the fact that they're kind of she's not apathetic. I think she's also just high on morphine. I think that's what
She
she
did
says,
make
right?
that joke. Yeah, whatever. More
More
morphine, please.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so that's kind of funny. So right after that, we were introduced to Yancey Jr., the brother, Fry's older brother, a couple of years older, and Yancey right off the bat is introduced to Philip and is told this is your brother Philip, and Yancey right away wants his name. He hates the name Yancey, despite the fact that, as his father says, many members of their line are Yancey Fry. So it's a proud tradition in their family that this Yancey gets to be part of. But Yancey is still very jealous of Philip, and this is kind of the trend we see throughout the life of both Yancey and Philip in their childhood, which we get to see a little bit more of. And we also
it's
get
an
a
older
little
sibling thing, I think. Is like when the younger sibling is
yeah,
born, the older sibling kind of gets pushed aside just because a baby does take a lot of work, right? Happened
well,
with
of
me,
course,
I assume, but I love my little brother. And even our friends who are starting their second child and stuff like that, they're going through a little bit of stuff with the
with the
older
younger
sibling
ones.
now.
Yeah, or the older ones are either. Yeah,
Yeah.
you're right. And it could be just a typical jealousy, but we do see this more and more so. Yancey is clearly not just jealous of the name, he's jealous of like Fry's life in some regard, right? So we have to see, or I should say Philip's life in some regard. But even so, Fry right at the beginning, our Fry is loves space because his father puts a little, what are those called? Like the little child's
Mobiles.
yeah, like above the
Uh,
bed, above his crib, and it's of a space one. It's like planets and a spaceship, which looks suspiciously like the Planet Express ship, but it's around there. And then Yancey rips off the ship and like demands that it's his, which is a childish thing, right? And then throws it
I
out the window.
I do like that
Yeah,
Yancey a senior was like, now this is gonna have to do until I get you to fear an actual IBM, so like an
right,
interballistic missile. So it's
right.
just it was born during the
The
Cold
Cold
War,
War,
I
yeah,
guess would be when Fry would have been born somewhere in there.
right in the
And
middle, yeah.
yeah, you and I were born way after the Cold War, stuff like that. So the USSR didn't exist when we were born, or did it?
It just ended
Yeah,
when we
yeah.
were born. Just like it just fell,
So
and yeah, the wall came down in '91 actually. So it was
yeah,
very, very. It was around that time.
very early
But
into
yeah,
our lives.
there was.
But
I
yeah,
will say like
there was a
another.
lot of fear for being nuked and
Yeah,
stuff like that.
yeah, nuclear
There's
war
some
was big.
now, but not like it was way back then, because there was people
No,
in like that they were freaking out. The whole Cuban crisis, missile crisis, was
yeah,
a thing, and
yeah,
yeah, so something that we don't have to go through. We just got internet bullies.
right. Yeah, the 1960s and 70s were heavily afraid. People were heavily afraid of
Oh
nuclear
yeah,
warfare,
yeah.
and yeah, and obviously Yancey Senior is a big contributor to that, right? Like
A
he's one of those
prepper,
people.
which
Yeah,
alluded to
exactly.
jokes and this and stuff like that, like
Yeah,
bananas.
Yancey
when we
Fry
turn
is
into
actually
monkey
pretty.
people.
Yeah, Yancey Senior is actually quite funny in this. I'd enjoy him in this.
Yeah,
But
it's little
anyways,
thing. It's making fun of him, but the thing is, like, if something like that does happen, you want to like be prepared. So
he was prepared. Yep.
yeah,
So
it's one of those what ifs, and then sometimes it could turn into a oh yeah, it's happening, not an if. I
so
have
we
no
cut
plan.
over to the present day,
Yes,
i.e. the
present day.
future, and and the Planet Express crew heads to what is like just a horse race track,
Yeah,
right?
racetrack
One of
along
these
with
things.
centaurs, and was there anything
Yeah.
else?
No, just the horse races with the jockeys, right? And and then the centaurs because they are jockeys on
Hard
top, like
horse.
with horses, right? So they are
Yeah, yeah,
themselves.
they were whipping themselves too, which I
Yeah,
find hilarious. And they're going, ow, ow, like
exactly. And they
the
have
joke's
normal
funny.
names like Steven. Steven is the winner.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
that's pretty funny. So all the characters arrive at the horse race and or the horse races, and they all get to bet on horses, and they're having, I guess it's kind of like a day off, just a team building thing, whatever.
Yeah,
And Fry, unfortunately, like, he keeps on, like, throughout the whole thing, he keeps on losing bets to this. And same with most people are losing, I suppose.
yeah. I think one of my favorite things here is when Hermes like, baby needs a new pair of shoes, and Zoidberg's like, to hell with your baby, I need those shoes.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, they have a pretty good comment back and forth. Actually, Hermes has a couple lines in this show or in this part that
oh
I
yeah,
really
I
enjoy.
think this is one of your favorite jokes. 'Cause
It is one of my
there's
favorites.
another
Yeah,
one in
when it
like the
comes up.
future where they pretty much just the same kind of thing. It's always with a horse too.
Right. It's so weird. So anyway, they all keep doing this, and Fry keeps expressing that he's so unlucky, right? He's just not doing very well. And we get a nice, fun little scene. This is what we're kind of alluding to. We get a fun scene with Leela and Hermes went to go get a snack, and they go to a or not a restaurant, but like kind of like one of these little booths, like a food court booth kiosk, called horse d'oeuvres, right? Like hors d'oeuvres, but with horse d'oeuvres, and it's all horse themed food. So he says like there's horse burgers, horse this, and they're all fed horses, so they have that double horse.
Yeah, it's horses
like,
eating
oh,
horses.
like that's so disgusting. But
Well, you
anyways,
know what? Horses are like they're herbivores, yes, but I've seen videos and stuff where they'll eat like a duckling or a mouse, and it's just like, oh,
I'm sure
yeah,
that's
nature's scary.
that's the case. Yeah, they can eat these things. They just they're
It's
not
called
supposed to, right? They're
opportunistic carnivore kind of thing.
Oh,
So it
sure.
just happens to be there, but like, yeah, it's just weird. It's just weird.
It is
That's a
weird.
thing.
So Leela orders some kind of, I don't know,
Horse.
some kind of. It's supposed to be like you're on a diet, like a salad type of thing, but then she gets it with like a horse filling, so it turns out to be just as bad as it should be. But my favorite joke of this is when Hermes orders a horse Coke, and the guy says, "A horse Pepsi, okay?" And he says, "Nay." I think
It's
I don't
so
know why.
stupid. It's so stupid. But like,
never-
it's just that play of words.
Yeah, I've never forgotten that joke since I first watched this episode. I've never forgotten that
Yeah.
scene. I don't know what it is. I think that's like one of the things that staples Hermes in my mind as being like one of my favorite characters of the show, just because of this. It's like, nay. So, but in any case, we have them, and
The cutscene to Bender going
Bender's
through.
there, and he's pretending to be a horse, right?
The stables. Going through the stables,
right?
and he's dressed
drugging
up with
all
a
the
horse.
horses.
I always love it
Human
whenever
horse,
he's dressed up like it's just a costume, and there's like a whole bunch of patches and stuff like that. It's like yeah, you're not a horse.
Yeah.
So he's
horse enough
doping
to fool the horses. Right. But he's not horse enough to fool the jockey. But then the one jockey that sees him, he also
hey, what you doing?
Yeah. He also drugs him, and he falls asleep.
Him,
yeah, tranquilizes him.
Yeah,
so he does it to all the horses except his own. So for the next race,
yes.
And we also see the centaur race, as you mentioned, Mitchell. And everybody's like doing whatever. And then the last one, the race starts, and all the horses are basically asleep except for one, which happens to be Bender's, and he wins. I think like $2,500, like not a ton, but like enough for what he probably bet. And
Bender would do it for $1.
Sure,
we all know that.
Yeah, and Fry absolutely gets super angry because he's like, "This is crazy! I'm so unlucky! I've lost all this stuff." And he pulls out $1 from his. He's like, "I'm not going to lose this one," but the wind takes it, so he ends up chasing it, and all this stuff happens, and he ends up getting electrocuted on a telephone pole after being shocked by said telephone pole. And then the horse d'oeuvres guy comments about how unlucky he is, and then proceeds to dump horse stuff
Grease.
to him, like
grease and like
because he fell into a garbage can, right? So
yeah, that is one unlucky guy.
so poor Fry is gone. He's not gone, but he's knocked out or whatever. He's electrocuted. He's lost his hair. He's had a really bad day. So we have yet another flashback, and this goes to the past, and we see that Fry and Yancey, and they're brothers, and they're growing up in New York, and they're at a basketball court somewhere outside in like one of those community areas, and they're just playing, they're having a good time. And I do kind of like this because we see like a little bit more of a relationship, right? We see how it builds up and everything. But we see that when Fry and Yancey are playing basketball, I'll call him Philip, right? So Philip Fry is like, oh yeah, I've got my space hook, and he calls it like a certain shot, right, for basketball.
Which that's what me and my brother did, yeah.
Right, to which then Yancey would get the ball, and then he would also use something like space hook, and then he would get it in, thus making Fry pissed off because
that's my move.
That's my move. Like, you just stole my move. And Yancey's like, whatever, you have to go get the ball now because I guess they're playing horse or something. But whatever the case.
It's usually what you do. If you score, you like go get the ball. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like you have to get it, and that's what happened in normal basketball. Anyways, you have to go for out of bounds to throw it in and into play.
Right. That makes sense. So it's just just the two of them, right? One of them has to get the ball, so it must be the one who didn't get the shot in, right? So Philip Fry goes over to get the basketball, and as he does, he discovers a 7-leaf clover that's amongst a bunch of other clovers. So he picks it up and he's like, oh, this is really cool. And so he takes it and he puts it into his little, what are these called? Like these not wrist guards, but like wrist
sweatbands. They're just
sweatbands or whatever.
Yeah.
So that makes sense. So he puts it into the sweatband on his wrist, right? And he does another, I think it's a 3-pointer shot, right? And he does this, Philip makes this shot and he gets it in. Super lucky shot. Nice swoosh in. And Yancey's disappointed because Fry wins, and then it cuts back to the beginning, but it shows Fry clearly holding that 7-leaf clover as like something close to him. He thinks it brings him some good luck.
A normal lucky clover is only 4, right? Like the normal clovers that you see are all like 3 clovers, right?
I think it's 3 or 4. I don't know.
4-leaf clover I thought was always
4-leaf clover is kind of lucky. I guess it's more.
It's always
so
lucky,
7 is like incredibly
almost double
lucky. Yeah.
So over double because it's 3 is the normal. 6 would be double, and then 6 plus 1. Oh,
right. 7 plus 7 in many religions and cultures is very, very lucky in itself, right?
7 is my least favorite number.
Okay. So back at the Planet Express, we flash forward to the future again, or the present day, and we have the crew sitting around the table in their I always forget what this
office
is called,
table.
like the hangar area, wherever the main court area or the main area is for where they do their meetings, right? And as they're doing this, and poor Fry's like lost most of his hair. It's like all singed off or whatever because he's electrocuted and he's all pissed off. Well, Bender's all happy because he's counting the money that he won when he rigged the race, and he makes a joke about it. And Fry says that he wouldn't have had such a problem, or he wouldn't have been so unlucky had he still had his 7-leaf clover from when he was a kid. And he makes mention of this clover. To which, and he also gets like this machine comes in and gives him some like new hair, I guess. Like
we see this wig machine or hair machine because it's like it's actually his hair being grown or something like that. Yeah, we see him a few times, and it's just it's a weird idea. It's like it grows the hair for you, and then gives it to you. It's like and he just puts it on like a wig, but then it just becomes your hair.
Right. So I think it's like so it's your hair. You put it on, and then it kind of grows into your scalp, and then you kind of just have it again. Right.
Yeah.
So, I mean, cool. That's for 1,000 years in the future. I mean, whatever the technology is going to have at that point. But that's kind of cool. So Fry now has his hair back. He looks normal now.
Yes. Sorry. What year did this come out?
This episode?
Yeah.
2000 or 2001, I think.
Okay. Just because the horse that Bender bet on was called Harry Trotter.
Oh, right. So because Harry Potter came out like 1999 or something.
Something like that.
Yeah.
Or 97. I forgot to mention
the first one was
earlier.
97. Yeah. So we have the Fry mentions the 7-leaf clover. Amy asks like, well, whatever happened to it? And he says like, oh, I hid it away. Like I never told anybody. And he says like, not even Scruffy. Not even Scruffy just has like the small cameo, but he doesn't say anything. Just walks away.
Yeah, the look too on Scruffy's like, don't bring me into this.
Or he's like, I'm gonna go find your clover or something. Like it's very, very strange. It's very suspiciously walks away.
a Scruffy centric episode. I don't know if he
Right.
has to talk much. Like obviously he's like the boilers and toilets and
Yeah.
boilers. Yeah, if it ain't that,
Yeah.
I don't have to deal with it. Yeah, because he had an apprentice in that one episode who died.
Yeah, Jackie J.
So
No, no, I think he came back though. I think we talked about this because it was all a facade, right? That
yeah,
episode that you're
but
referring
they
to.
found his skull.
It could have been fake. It was
We'll,
fake because I don't think
we'll
he
have to
died.
rewatch it.
We have to rewatch that one.
Yeah.
But in any
But
case,
I would
I
just
will
love
say
it. I would just love a Scruffy centric episode because like
I would.
he's
Yep.
used as a background joke character, but like so was Zoidberg for a little bit, so was
Yeah,
Hermes, but then they all got their eccentric stuff and we loved them.
absolutely. And you know what? I would even love like it could be an episode that follows Scruffy, but it could be from the point of view of Scruffy, but it takes place over the course of the whole series. So it could be right from the beginning that we meet him, and then it's like, what was he doing when the boiler broke, when we first kind of really met him? And then after that, and then it goes to a new episode where we see him here. Like, where does he go after Fry says that? And it's just like all these little
Ooh,
clips of like,
that'd
what is
be
Scruffy doing? It would be a very strange episode, but I think it would be quite funny because
I
it's like he has some secret life or something.
I don't think that they would do that just because from how I understand how Disney works is that they
Mhm.
really want to kill the past as they've proven with their movies
Okay.
and TV
So they
shows.
don't want it to, but yet they did Children of the Bog.
Yeah, see, well again that was a remember this, but here's our version. And
Okay.
yeah, it's just that, but I don't think they could do because Scruffy. Yeah, Scruffy was in a lot of the stuff, and it was cool. Like there was that one episode where they all gender swapped, which probably wouldn't be allowed today. But he stayed as a woman
Oh,
at the end of that, right? It's like, hey,
yeah,
what are we
that's
talking about?
oh, that's right. That
Yeah,
episode's I love that
so
episode, man. That's
there
hilarious.
there would
Yeah.
be lots of stuff to go through, and just I think there'd
Mhm.
be too much material to pick and choose from for it to be
Sure.
perfect. But
You're right.
I
It'd
like that
probably
idea though.
yeah, it'd probably be better to be just to make a Scruffy episode. But that's just something I thought of. Like, what does Scruffy do in his spare time?
Yeah,
But then again,
well,
it's
he
probably
falls
just
in
him.
love with the wash bucket and tells the
Exactly.
wash
He kind of
bucket
just
leave
lies
now.
down and yeah, reads some interesting scenes. Yeah, exactly. So, anyways, Scruffy leaves suspiciously, as we've mentioned,
Yes.
and the Fry decides, you know what, I'm going to go find my 7-leaf clover because I want my luck back and I want to have a better time of it or whatever. So he gets the trio together, right? So like Bender and Leela join him. A small joke about like, there's a lot of metal down there. I might need somebody to bend. So Leela, can you come with me? And then like Bender's like, well, hell no.
Well,
Like
I
hell
love
you
Leela 'cause she's like, yeah, I'll come and help. She didn't even say like, I think we need Bender for bending. She's
Yeah,
like,
I
no,
know.
I'll come and help. Yeah.
Bender's like hell you will.
Yeah.
Like he's
Then of course,
offended. So I do like that. So the three of them to go.
yeah. We learned about Bender's full name here though.
Yes, I was just gonna say. So Bender here, yeah, he says like Bending's my middle name, right? So this is why you should bring me because that's my middle name. And he's like, Fry's like confused, and then he's like, yep, my name is Bender Bending Rodriguez. So he is full on Spanish as he is from Tijuana and all this kind of stuff. So yeah, Bender is Mexican. And actually, they even make mention of that name in the future. You can even see it on screen. Like Mom even mentions, like, oh, Bender B. Rodriguez. That's the bending robot that the professor owns or something. Like they make
the
mention of his
overclocked
name.
one.
Yeah.
Yes.
So it is cool that they kind of do call him that. That means like every single bending unit might actually have like some kind of last name as well. Like
Middle
Flexo would
name as
also
well
have
and
some kind of
everything
name.
because yeah, would it be Flexo Flexing Rodriguez or
Right.
Flexo Flexing
Or Flexo Bending, because he's also a bending robot, right? Flexo Bending Rodriguez, or maybe a different Spanish name. Who knows? But yes, we learned that Bender is indeed full-on Mexican and Spanish. So we cut to them, the three of them, going to enter into the sewers, because obviously old New York, I shouldn't say obviously, but if you've been watching the series, old New York is built, or new New York, rather, is built over the ruins of old New York.
That'd be
Wayne
a lot of
gets-
construction to do, man.
Well,
They
don't
all
forget
have
about
floating cars, but
don't forget about how old New York kind of got destroyed a couple times throughout the series, right?
which
Throughout time.
which they allude to this as well. I love this
Yeah.
because as they go through the sewers, or I guess old New York,
Mhm.
and once they get to Fry's house, I love Bender saying, "Wow, Father Time really took a bat to this place."
And it's the exact
And-
same.
yeah. Then so you're staring at the house, and then it's like it goes back into the 1980s or
80s
90s
in
or
this
whatever.
case, yeah.
And it's
80s, yeah.
the same shape that it was, and I'm like, that's
falling
that's
apart,
yeah,
all
that's
this
awesome.
stuff. Yeah.
I love that line. Wow, Father Time took a bat to this place. It's probably my favorite line of this one, other
Sure.
than a few others.
Of course. And yeah, and before we even enter into the sewers too, did you notice the sewer grate of this episode as well, right? Has It's so there was another Fox run show at the time that I believe was run by it was created by Eddie Murphy and a couple of other people. It was called The PJs. Did you remember this show?
Sewer cover. What's it called?
Yeah, you're right.
No.
The sewer grate. Yeah, like the cover. Yeah, and it has
Manhole. The
manhole cover. Yeah, sewer cover. Yeah. So it has the
PJs. I think we talked about this before because
yeah.
it was mentioned, I think, in another different Fox show or something like that. And I think you asked me about it.
Yes.
I don't remember it, to be honest.
The PJs? Okay. Oh. Well, I don't think it lasted super, super long, but I know Eddie Murphy was like the creator of it, and he voiced one of the characters most of the time, I think. Like he was in it sometimes, and he was like the main character. He's actually the character on the cover.
Yeah.
And
I would assume.
I think at this point, so this was 2001-ish, in the PJs TV show, they actually had it where in one of their episodes, there was a milk carton that actually had Fry, and Fry was missing on the milk carton. So it said like, call if you see this man, and it was a picture of Fry obviously from Futurama. So they actually did this little back and forth thing a couple of times.
It was a stop motion show too.
Yeah, stop motion. Yeah.
Oof,
so that's why
that would have been hard to keep up.
Mm-hmm. So that was the PJs in there. So that's why they had that on the sewer grate to kind of show off more Fox shows during their tenure. So in any case, Fry falls into the hole, unfortunately, and they follow him in, and they go trotting through the sewers into the lands of old New York. And Fry makes reference to a few things. Like he's like, oh, we have Manhattan to ourselves. I can do whatever I want. He has some fun. He makes mention of Mayor Giuliani, who was well known for being like trying to like stamp out crime and disobedience or whatever. So he's like, I'm gonna go jaywalk, and then he gets hit by a giant lizard.
I do love also what he says here, that Howard Stern is overrated.
Yeah,
it's true then and truer now.
I just like how nobody would have said that in New York in the middle of Manhattan anyway, like something, right? But yeah,
well, someone might have, and there might have been like a hey, screw you.
Yeah, I just like when Fry knocks the phone off the what is that called? Like just the phone booth or whatever, just knocks the payphone, and he says like, oops.
So people out there who don't know what a payphone is, they were all across cities and everything, and train stations and stuff. You'd put, was it 35 cents?
Oh, who knows? Coins. Yeah.
Coins. Actual coins. I don't think they ever even evolved to have like a credit card thing on there, did they?
Unless there's a gimmick one or something. Yeah.
Maybe there was one or two of those at an airport per se. Sure. You put 35 cents, and then when you type in the number, you can only call for about a minute or something like that.
Exactly. It was keep paying more or something. Yep. Those were the days. So anyway, Fry gets hit by this lizard and he gets knocked out, and then we get another flashback while he's knocked out, and we go to their teen years. So after Fry has found the clover and he and Yancey have grown up, I'm guessing, what would you say, maybe 15 and 13, I guess?
Definitely teenagers.
Like Fry's a bit, maybe 2 years younger than Yancey, so I'd say, probably 13, 14 years old, and Yancey's that much older. So they're in a hip-hop, like, breakdancing group on the street. And
never did it.
It's breakdancing is super difficult. I wouldn't recommend it. So I want to pay attention to this. So they're doing like this little competition because they want to get, what's the prize? Parachute pants, because it's the 80s, right? So their leader of their little group is saying, yo guys, we need to get together. We need to we need to really impress these judges so we can get these parachute pants. So let's see what you guys got. Like what are your moves? And so Philip and Yancey are part of this troupe, and so Philip goes first. And I want to stress this at the beginning. So he asks him, okay, so what's your like whole system? And he's like, yeah, I'm Cosmic F. So at this point in his life, Philip Fry is not using Cosmic P. He's not calling himself Philip. He's calling himself by his family name. He's calling himself Fry.
Even his parents, I think, hey, where's Fry? They call him that.
No, they do say Philip. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. In there's like, oh, like
maybe in this
ever since Phil disappeared and Philip's like they call him Philip because
I'm gonna have to look into that because I feel like they called him Fry.
No, because I made mention of this in my own notes. Like I even saw, I was like, okay, yeah, no, they do call him Philip, but Fry himself, Fry himself calls himself Fry at this stage of his life. So I think at this point, what I said a couple episodes before, Fry is pissed off at Yancey for trying to take everything from him and being jealous of his name, that he refuses to use his name anymore to help to like be better or not better, but like to appease Yancey. So, in any case, he doesn't use Cosmic P, but he uses Cosmic F, and he has like a space-themed dance-off kind of thing, which is kind of cool. Right after that, Yancey goes. Yancey calls himself Cosmic Y and has the exact same moves as
Deep Space.
Fry. Yeah, Deep Space and the Moonwalk and
Spacewalk.
Or the spacewalk or whatever.
Basically, it was like if Fry said the moon, he would say like super far deep space, something like that.
Something like. Well, he uses the exact same phrases. So right after that, Fry yells at his brother in front of the group and says like, "You're always trying to steal things from me. Like I'm so sick of this and all this whatever." And Yancey's like, "Whatever, man. Like you don't know what you're talking about." And Fry's like, "Hey, you know what? I'm gonna show you off, man." And so he takes his clover and he puts it as a little headband. He says he's gonna do a septuple head spin, which is when you go onto your head and you spin yourself on the ground like a top.
7 times.
7 times in a circle, complete circle. To which everybody's like, "There's no way." So they have a guy who's doing their little beatboxing thing, like, and I think his name is Noticeably FAT.
Noticeably fat.
I thought that was just a funny joke, but I was like, oh, that's clever actually. Noticeably FAT. Rewind the tape. I thought that was great. So he does it, whatever, and then so Fry does it with the clover in his head, and he spins around, and he does it like I think 7 or 8 times if I'm counting. Whatever, he does it. He completes it. And everyone's like, "Whoa, that's so impressive, Fry. Well done, Phil." Like all this stuff. They're all giving him props. Yancey, again, jealous of like the interest in Philip Fry and like all this attention, decides to try and steal the clover from him, but Philip Fry runs away, and this is where the flashback ends here. So, yeah, I tell you, man, like Yancey during this time is a bit of a prick.
Yeah.
So we have Fry waking up after the flashback scene, and this is kind of funny actually. They're like, "Oh man, we gotta figure out where your house is, Fry. Where do we go?" And Bender's like, "Well, we can just take a trip on the old B train," and he turns himself kind of into a train. Just puts his
foot cuffs. Yeah, his foot cuffs are now like the wheels.
The wheels on like the old tracks of the old subway system, right? So I think was it Tristan had mentioned this last time with the penguins and everything, and Bird Bottom Ice Catraz. Like Bender has a lot of these these really really strange things that he can kind of just do, and we just kind of
it's a what's the word I'm looking for? It's just he's a tool to move stuff along, kind of thing.
Move the plot along, I suppose. Yeah.
Like, oh man, New York's so big. How are we gonna get there? Well, there's train tracks here. No, we don't have a train.
We don't have a train.
Bender does something to make a train, to make it be like a train. Yeah.
Could Bender be a wear car again?
yeah.
It's like, no, we'll have his legs on the track, and then they can spin, and then they can just stand on those legs and hold his arms, and then he can just take them away, right?
One of my favorite things is he actually pulls out like a little like receiver and talks into it like boop, boop,
boop, boop. Yeah, it's like, "This is the B train going to wherever the hell I feel like it. Please keep
you can't really do when you're a train."
No. Beep boop. And then he puts it in there. And I do love it at the very end. They get to the station that they need to get to. Fry's old neighborhood. What's it called? Newkirk Avenue. And Ben's like, they get off Bender, and then there's also like a homeless guy on him. He's like, "End of the line, buddy," and he's like, "Rah." So there are still like people sleeping on the trains down in old New York 1,000 years in the future. So they enter Fry's old neighborhood, and Fry has like all these memories and everything. He's like, "Oh my god, like that's the bench where I found a bunch of shirts." I do like this one. He says like "There's the fire hydrant in the summer we used to set on fire."
Yeah, because you would think they would use it to cool down or something like that. It's like, no, we set it on fire.
We set it on fire. And then, they find, as they're going through, and Fry's like, really excited, so he's yelling, and then this mutant comes up and says like, "Oh, hey, like, did you know this guy named, I think it's Andy Goldman or something?" And turns out to be an old neighbor of Fry. Not really important, but just kind of a fun thing that mutants are still very much here, right? Because we're going to see more mutants later in the future of the series, but the mutants are kind of very much in this environment all the time. So they finally get to his house, and as you mentioned, Mitchell, right? From their point of view, the house is like rugged and destroyed and all these things like falling apart. There's stuff on the lawn. Like it looks worse than all the other houses in the neighborhood kind of thing.
Yeah.
Or it looks very similar to him now because everything's destroyed. But then as soon as Bender says the line, then it cuts back to the flashback, right? Back to the past. And the house is identical to what it is before. Except now everything around them is now lush and green and it's new, right? Except for their house. So I do like that as well. So we have, at this point, Fry is still being chased by Yancey, right? And so it's just right after their hip hop argument. And they run into the house. Fry tries to get his mom to help him, but she's distracted by playing golf in the house or whatever she's doing. And so Fry locks himself in the cellar, and his dad's down there because his dad is, as we talked about, like the typical American. He's afraid of nuclear war with the Russians and the commies. So he's built, he's built his the cellar or their storage area into like a bunker, I guess, like a safety place in case there ever is nuclear war. And he mentions like Fry makes mention that Yancey wants his stuff, and he says, well, he better keep his hands off these bananas.
He's got a crate of not like a couple bananas, like a crate.
Yeah, not like a bunch of bananas, like a little crate. And he's like, yeah, we're gonna need these when the world turns us all into monkeys. So, like, he's one of those nuts. But I love him. I love Yancey Senior. I think he's actually quite a good character. So while in the flashback, and Fry is looking around to see like where he can hide it. So he goes into he has an old vault thing. It's like
out of the basement,
a Bronco vault in the basement, and he opens it up. I think it's only 3.
That's what he says later on. Yeah,
right.
I still remember my old password. Click, click, click. 3.
So he opens it up, and there's a whole bunch of these 80s records, right? Like the music from the 80s. And so he pulls out one. It happens to be from the movie The Breakfast Club. And honestly, I think The Breakfast Club is actually a very good movie. It's a bit dated out at this. I was gonna say you probably haven't seen it because it's a good movie. It's just
I've seen bits and pieces. So it's been on cable TV since
it's a classic,
the dawn of cable TV.
Yeah, it's a classic. What is his name?
John Hughes.
John Hughes. Thank you so much. Yes, John Hughes. I was going to bother.
Love John Hughes.
Yeah,
that's probably one of the best 80s and 90s movie maker in the world.
Yeah.
He probably his most famous film, I think most people would know, would be the one that they actually had the least hope on was Home Alone.
Right. Okay. Yeah, I love it. And Home Alone was a great movie too.
Yes.
Yeah. Anyway, The Breakfast Club here is obviously not the movie, but it's the musical soundtrack.
Yes, the record, not like a CD, not a cassette, record.
The record. Yeah, the old records.
I do love Fry saying, "Man, I wish I was old enough to feel things about things."
Or he's like, I can't wait till I'm old enough to feel things about things or something. Yeah, exactly.
I can't feel to be generic about generic to be generic.
Yeah, exactly. So he takes a 7-leaf
Fry
clover.
line.
Exactly. Takes a 7-leaf clover, puts it into into like this little plastic bag so it doesn't get like good for him.
It's laminated. It's
laminated kind of thing, right? It's like in one of those bags so it won't disintegrate, which is smart on his part. And he puts it into it and he hides it away and locks it up. And I guess
puts it into the sleeve of the record.
Yeah, and puts it back into the vault. And obviously because it's his vault, I guess he can lock it up and no one knows how to get into it. So that's that. And I guess over the years he forgets about the clover because he never opens it again. It was still there.
That's true from his teens to right before he gets put in the 20s, future. Yeah, so I kind of forgot
at this point, I guess he's 13, 14. So we'll say for 10 years before he disappears. Yeah. He doesn't touch his clover.
Because he talks about how terrible. Like you watch the first episode, he's like, "I hate my life. Because he's like, Michelle, baby, sorry, Fry, I'm going away here."
Yeah, exactly.
She's with Constantine. Going out. Come on.
Yeah, exactly.
Constantine. So, I think he has 2 names. That guy. I looked him up. He has 2 names.
Charles and Constantine. Yeah. So any case, Fry in the future, right when he goes back to the future, whatever, and they come back to the cellar, right, into the present time. And they head down there, and Fry's like, okay, I put it into my Ronco vault, and he can't quite open it or whatever. So Bender uses his magical abilities of being a robot to like shake it open because it has some kind of issue with that.
No, I have no idea because it's actually called the Ronco Record Vault. So I have no idea if Ronco is an actual safe. The Ronco, Ronco. I have no idea if that's an actual safe company, because they could be making fun of something
think
that sounds similar or something like that, like
I
the
think it might
Stronco
be,
or
but
something like that. I don't
sure.
know.
Yeah.
But Bender does say like, now the weakness of the Ronco safes, like as if like that's like it's still being used that day, and
Yeah.
because Bender's a felon, he knows that vibrations are the weakness. So yeah, he puts his hands on it and he starts.
Yes. And I
And of
love how
course,
he falls apart.
yes,
He
and
still falls
as
apart.
Bender seems to do whenever he does something hard, he himself falls apart.
That manufacturing, man, that Mexican manufacturing. So yeah, so they open it up and Fry's like, oh, finally I have my clover, and he takes all the records are still there, and he takes out the Breakfast Club one, and he looks and he's gone. Clover is gone. He's like, oh my god, it's
The whole place is being cleaned out, which
been
to me
cleaned
means
out.
he's
Yeah,
hid other stuff in there too.
maybe. And so everybody's like, well, maybe it just disintegrated or like went away or whatever. He's like, no, 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 everything else stayed here, so it must be here, or somebody must have taken it or something. But who could have taken it? Probably his brother Yancey, right? So Fry and the trio, they leave the house and they're walking, and Fry is sad that like his brother always seemed to hate him just for being him, like always for whatever it was. And it's not until Leela kind of says like, well, brothers fight, and it's not always what you
Yep.
think it is. I'm sure he loved you and everything. And right when Fry's about to kind of take that into consideration, boom, right in front of them is a statue of what appears to be a monumental, like iconic statue made for somebody who looks just like Yancey Fry. And in the lapel of the statue, because he's wearing a suit, is the seven-leaf clover. So indeed, the Frys got the seven-leaf clover out of the safe at some point in the past. Fry is pissed. So
Well, I don't think statues are being made nowadays.
not very well. I'm sure they are, but just not to the extent of what they
We
are
get
now.
these stupid art pieces that cost $1 million, and it's just a blue ring.
Sure. So we have them leaving there, and I do like that when they get back to the Planet Express, the statue is there already.
Yeah,
So
they
must have had,
they somehow they took it somehow. It must
well,
have
it
been
was
Bender.
clearly Bender. Bender clearly
No,
broke.
he brought Leela along because she can bend bars, so she
Yeah,
probably carried it.
so Bender can carry things. That's what I'm guessing. So,
Yeah.
anyways, they somehow have the statue, and as they're talking about this, and Fry is like, he's always angry. He's just like, I can't believe it. He stole my clover. He stole my life. He stole all these my name, all these things. And so, because I think on the statue it also says Philip J. Fry,
First man on Mars.
first man on Mars. So Fry is like, this is crazy. Why would my brother take my entire life? And so Hermes hears, he's like, oh, your brother was that Philip J. Fry. Oh, he's like a hero. He's like one of these like well known people from the past. And he's like, what are you talking about? So the professor's computer hears this and like finds a documentary about Philip J. Fry, and also orders him French fries and opens his calendar to Friday. I thought that was kind of funny. So he has
Yeah.
voice recognition for Fry, and they watch this documentary. And so, do you remember? I can't remember what episode it was. We were talking about the Niblonians one. So the day the Earth stood stupid,
Yeah.
and it turned out that the one Niblonian, I always thought it was David Herman, and it actually turns out to be Billy West,
Yes.
because it's that voice. This is the voice, right? The narrator of the documentary is very similar to that one, because I'm pretty sure this is Billy West who's speaking. So they find out that the Philip J. Fry is everything: an entrepreneur, a like global icon, an estate tycoonist, and all this kind of stuff. He struck oil in a house or in a mansion, in the backyard of a mansion that he won in the lottery. He's a musician who had like a bunch of number one hits. He had dated like famous supermodels, and he was the
An
first person on Mars.
it's Icelandic supermodel, which
Yeah.
let's face it, all Icelandic supermodels they're
It must be.
hot.
Ooh.
I, I have no idea, to be honest. all the supermodels look more or less the same to me. They're there to be pretty.
They're all beautiful. In any
Yes.
case, he had a fling with a bunch of them apparently, but he
Yes.
has everything. This Philip J. Fry lived the life of luxury, and all of his stuff was luck, and it was all thanks to the seven-leaf clover. And it was apparently buried with him at the end of his life in a place called Orbiting Meadows that it talks about. And he buried it with his four-leaf clover, obviously, because some Egyptians apparently thought that it would bring him luck in the next life. So after all this stuff, Fry sees this, and he's still under the belief that it must be Yancey that has taken his entire life from it. So he decides to go grave robbing, and he takes Leela and Bender with him, obviously, to do so. So they go to Orbiting Meadows, and as they go through,
before we get there,
it
does flash back to Yancey.
Right. Sorry, there's one more flashback.
In a camo tux.
Right. So Yancey is with the family. This is so post Fry's disappearance, Philip J. Fry's disappearance.
Yes.
And he's there with his fiance, very pretty girl, and his parents, Yancey's, and they're all in the living room. Yeah, they're all in the living room, and he's trying out a tux that his dad owned when he was in the military, I guess, and it's just camouflage. Yeah, camo tux. Yeah. And he's like, yeah, I got that. That got me through Nam in style, something like that. So at the end there, this is they make mention of oh, I miss Philip. I miss your brother. I just wish he was here to see this and everything. And they honestly do miss him. So Michelle saying in that one episode, oh, they didn't go looking for you. No one knew what happened to you. They didn't bother looking. Not true. And we know that this isn't true because we also see in the future with Seymour that they used Seymour a little bit to go looking for him, right? Maybe they didn't pay anybody to go looking for him, but they definitely went looking for him. So, any case, Yancey Jr. says that, oh, I want to get some music. Maybe I can go through Fry's old stuff and find some music or whatever. And they're like, yeah, go ahead. So he goes to the basement.
Fry is gone, but his crap isn't.
Right. So he goes to the basement. I do like this little continuity thing too. I think this is from Mars University. Yancey pulls out the little flag of the Whitefish, which is from when he went to Coney Island College. So I thought that was kind of cool. So he does that, and then he finds this really, really nice picture that Fry drew when he was a kid, when he was really young, and it says Philip Fry being in space on a ship at age 20 or something. So Yancey folds this up and pockets that into his jacket, and then he opens the locker or opens the vault with Play-Doh. He explodes the Play-Doh.
Yeah, it's dynamite. Oh crap! What's that plastic stuff that they use to blow up stuff?
Oh,
Claymore, something like that.
Oh no. What is it called? Plastine or something?
Plastique.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Something like that.
It's a play on that kind of thing.
Yeah.
He
uses Play-Doh to do that.
Yeah, you take this wad of. It's called dough in this for legal purposes, I'm sure.
Sure.
I don't know if Play-Doh is still around, but it was big at this time, so I remember playing a lot with it. It was fun.
It was fun.
Salty though, way too salty.
Sure. You're not supposed to eat it. So
it's non-toxic, Anthony. He says you shouldn't eat it, not that you can't.
Right. So he puts it on the side because he can't open the lock, and he lights it up and it blows up or whatever. So I guess over the years it must rust over. This is why Fry can't open it in the future. We'll say in our head canon, right? Yeah. So anyway, he opens it up and he's like, the Breakfast Club, and he takes us out.
This will clear out the room at the end.
Yeah, implying the music's not very good. So anyway, as he takes it out,
soundtracks aren't that amazing, but some have
some are very good.
Some have Shrek, good, obviously, right? Yes.
Shrek, Guardians 1, I think a lot of them are
that one I think was kind of based to be good though. It took the best of that era, but
sure. Yeah. So anyway, Breakfast Club comes there and he takes it out, but then wouldn't you know it, the 7-leaf clover falls out, and Yancey realizes what this is, and so he takes that, and then it flashes back to flashes forward to the main characters, the trio, as they enter the Orbiting Meadows, and they go through and they enter the I think it's the Heroes area.
The Heroes section, yeah.
Heroes section. So Philip J. Fry was a hero as well. He's one of the greatest men of all time.
Wouldn't you call the people who landed on the moon, whether you believe it or not, to be heroes?
Of course I believe it. Would I call them heroes? I mean, that's a good question. I would call them very important people. Yeah. I don't know. Hero in my mind is somebody who saves people and does something to help humanity in that regard. But I guess that is kind of what they do.
Yeah, the superheroes are different from heroes.
No, I wouldn't call them superheroes, obviously.
No, I'm just saying
the idea of hero.
You and I both love the Marvel. Well, we did love the Marvel movies and stuff like that, Batman and stuff like that. So those are heroes and stuff like that, right? And the word hero might have been twisted a little bit in a way.
I would put police, fire doctors, like a lot of the emergency
emergency people, yes,
situations.
like the
I would
family
put them as
doctor,
heroes.
maybe not. Like,
Maybe not right.
you have a
Like
rash.
emergency
Take this
doctor,
ointment.
emergency medical. Yeah, exactly.
Oh, you're my hero, Dr. Ointment. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it's very different from, we need to get this CPR now. And they literally exhaust themselves. That's a hero.
Exactly. That's a
Yeah,
good.
but like a
that's
doctor
hero.
prescribing you, you got a cold, here, have some pills.
Yeah. No,
No,
those
not a
ones.
hero.
Yeah. A physician, an emergency physician who like
Yes.
works surgery, or a surgeon even, right? A surgeon who works like ample hours of the day and does a lot of work.
To counter your point, plastic surgeons, are they heroes? Sometimes yes, depending
Sometimes
on
yes.
sometimes
Do
yes.
they make you prettier? Exactly. Do they help humanity? Maybe.
Yes,
But
they do. Yes.
any case, I would say those guys are heroes. I wouldn't put astronauts in the realm of heroes, but they're definitely important.
Well,
all scientists are very important, I would say,
I
because
will
they
just
do help in certain ways.
I will counter that because like the term astronaut is pretty. There's a lot of them now, right? And it's just people in space. It's not necessarily people being on the moon. And like,
Yeah.
how many people were there in that thing on the moon? 4, 3 or 4?
3 or 4. Yeah. Well, I think
Yeah.
it's also like those are the first ones to do it, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
if you go back in time, whenever this was, if you have the very, very, very first police officer was probably considered like, wow, you set the grounds for what
that upholds the law. Wow.
Right, the very first person, like whoever that was.
So like the first
or the
people
very
on the
first
moon,
person to save people from a fire.
Yes,
right?
exactly. The
Like,
first person on the moon, maybe I'd call a hero. The first people, because that unknown territory, you're doing something, right?
Sure.
And Philip J. Fry II was the first person on Mars, right? Which is an even greater
than the moon,
achievement.
Right? Yeah,
moon, right? Because the moon is like a 2-day trip there by bus, but Mars, no.
Sure. I was gonna say what? Yeah. No.
in comparison.
Point, yeah.
Right?
No. Point taken. You're absolutely right. So yeah. Okay. We can throw it out there to be like he's definitely deserving of being in the hero section for what he's accomplished. Right.
Being a band person, a businessman,
winning a lottery,
getting
a mansion,
Icelandic
oil.
supermodels. Yeah. Not so much. Not so much for those reasons.
Exactly.
No.
So, in any case, they get to the grave and they start digging or whatever, and Fry's his shovel's kind of hitting the statue or like the monument of where the grave is kind of buried with. And so as he's hitting it, a bunch of moss starts coming off, and there's a little bit of a paragraph that's kind of written underneath, and we don't really see it, but Fry kind of clears it off and he's reading it. And
we see him reading it with his eyes, yeah.
Right, and it flashes one more time to the past, and this is incredible. This is like one of the best forms of storytelling I've ever seen when it comes to this show. But we have Yancey Fry Jr., obviously, with his wife, and this years later, or how many years later after they've been married, and they just have a newborn baby. As he and his wife are talking about, like, oh, we have to give him a name, and Yancey says, oh, I might have an idea for a name, and it turns out he has the 7-leaf clover, which he gives to his son. And that son he names Philip J. Fry after his uncle. And he even keeps like the little picture that he took from his.
Yes, I was going to mention that he put it up on a frame on the wall.
Yeah, like to show that he loved him and he missed him. So
here, we didn't put this at the beginning, but Yancey Fry Jr. or whatever, the 14th or whatever it is, he's actually voiced by Tom Kenny. SpongeBob.
Yes, I was going to say that. Yeah, he is voiced by Tom Kenny. And he pops in quite a few episodes actually, like Yancey Fry, right?
Maybe like 5 overall or something like that.
Every time we see Fry's past, he pops up, right? Yes. But yeah, so he has this whole thing, and it shows that Yancey did actually really love his brother, and so he even named his son after him, and to carry on his legacy, as Fry reads on the statue, named for his uncle to carry on his spirit, something like this.
Yeah, here lies Philip J. Fry, named for his uncle to carry on his spirit. Yeah,
yes.
Pretty good. What's that called?
Heartfelt, super emotional. What is that called?
The thing that you put on the tombstone, like the quote or whatever.
Epitaph. Epitaph is an inscription, right? So the epitaph is what you're talking about. Okay.
Yes, the epitaph.
So the epitaph on there, yeah, that's what he has for his uncle, and it's incredible. So we finish off the episode with Fry looking up at the statue of his. Now he realizes it's his nephew. This is why it looks like his brother, and having the 7-leaf clover that Bender finds in the grave, and he puts it back with his grave, because he chooses to remember his brother the way that he did, and how lucky he was to have been with his brother and everything, and with his nephew and with his nephew's legacy. And it finishes off with it pulling away, and we hear the "Don't you forget about me" from the Breakfast Club. And yeah, that's where we finished the episode. So honestly, like I think
it was a pretty good rug pull. It's what's it called? What's that called? So they do it all the time with these things. It's about this person. Psych! It's about this girl. Yeah, subversion. Yeah. It was
subverting
great. This is how you properly do it. This is how you properly do it.
Absolutely. No, this is I would say. I mean, maybe not in terms of humor, although there are a lot of like instances that I do find like funny in this episode. This has probably got to be the best episode of the season. It's got to be that
most
one.
Heartfelt. I will give you that. The most heartfelt of the season. I'm not going to say the best one because it's not the best one, but it is a damn good one.
Yeah, it's up there. It's got to be like one of the top. I mean, there's 15 episodes of this season as we have them. I would say this is probably in the top 3 for story wise. I would say it's a
very good story one. Yes, but I don't know. I watch Futurama for the fun and humor, which this episode did have some fun. It did have some humor, but it definitely hit the heartstrings a lot more than it did.
Yeah, for sure. What are your thoughts then on this episode as a whole? So your favorite scene, joke, and MVP, obviously.
There's 2 jokes. What was one? Yeah, Father Time really took a bat to this place. I like that one. Yep. And then when Fry was discussing like, oh, my 7-leaf clover is probably helping out rats becoming the Rat King. A piece of dirt
another
becoming
ant
lucky.
Another ant or whatever. And then dirt turned its luck around.
Yeah, and then the professor said dirt doesn't need luck. I just like that. Yeah, it's just like dirt that lucky that it doesn't need luck, more luck.
He says it so weird. He says it like so sexually.
He says it in a weird way. Yeah.
But you're right. Yeah. Okay. My favorite's the horse Coco K. I also do. I do like a lot of the scenes in the past because I love world building in all its forms. So I do love seeing like the past as it grows up with Philip Fry with his brother and how they grow up there. My favorite joke of this episode must be, geez, I can't even think. I mean, there's a lot of good ones. I do like Fry mentions like I've run over black cats that were more luckier than I was or something. So that was just a good line. But yeah, okay. My MVP for this, I'm going to choose Yancey Sr. I think his dad is actually probably the highlight of this episode for me.
He's got some good jokes. I'm going to stick with Fry.
Of course. Got to choose the main character, right?
Yeah, it's about him and he overcame his anger. Because my brother cared about me. But he really didn't because you were there in the past, but whatever.
Exactly. Alrighty. Well, that finishes us off for Luck of the Fryrish, right? Fryrish.
The fact that you have to say that a little slowly now, just to make sure you had that second R.
Just gotta make sure I get it. Otherwise, I'll mistake it, right? So, in any case, that's the Luck of the Fryrish. And we'll see everybody here next time for season 3, episode 11, The Cyber House Rules. So that'll be a fun one as well. So thanks again, Mitch, for joining me, and we'll talk to you next time. Toodaloo.
Yes, toodaloo, toodaloo.